just like to note before the Pledge of Allegiance, we don't start till Ms. Beck says we can start. So we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the November 14, 2024 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for Shawnee County. My name is Kevin Cook. I serve as the chair this year of the Shawnee County Commission. Joining me today is Commissioner Aaron Mays. Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Bill Rippon.
Morning.
And then we have Ms. Beck as our county clerk and Ms. Reckert as our county counselor.
Good morning.
So we have a very packed agenda today. So Ms. Beck, before we begin, there was a request to pull from the agenda today consent item 3J. That item needed to be reworked a little bit, so I will be removing that item from the agenda. So we will pull that item, it will come back in a future agenda. So, do you want that as a motion? All right.
You can do it.
All right.
Second.
It's done anyway, so.
Okay.
Oh.
Motion made, second, all in favor, passes 3-0. So you can note it.
Okay.
All right, but ready to kick us off?
Item 2, under unfinished business, consider authorization and execution of contract C348-2024 with Johnson Controls, Inc. for the annual service of the department's HVAC control systems in the amount of $14,994 to be paid from the detention budget deferred from the October 31st of 2024.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I did work with Nelda on this, and I worked with Major Phelps, who's over our physical plant. And I want to apologize because I didn't do a very good job the first time. But this has to do with, our agency does exactly what Nelda's agency or department does. We fix the machinery and do the on-site stuff. This has to do with the exact the computer access and the computer maintenance of that, which we, and just like Nelda's group, they have a similar contract. So this takes care of all the computer work, but we do our own machinery update. So it's just an update of the computer.
Okay. With that clarification, is there any other questions?
No, I'll move for approval. I'll second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item 3, consent agenda minus item J.
Are there any questions or is there a motion?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item 4, new business A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments, and there are 2 weeks worth of voucher payments on there.
Yeah, so the first one is the November 6th, or I guess it'd be November 7th, wouldn't it? But $4,547,124.65. 2 items to note on there under state grant, $260,168.89 to KBS Construction is for the state-funded portion of October's services on the DOC mental health facility. So we'll see those probably again and again for the next year or two. Under building and maintenance and facilities management, $502,070.76 to City and Companies for courthouse renovations for August and September. And then on the other voucher report, which is today's, $2,360,577.11 is the total on that. There are also 2 items there to point out under sewer districts. $403,440.75 to MCON is for the Sherwood wastewater pump station improvement projects, which I believe is also partially funded by the state. And then under summer camps, $101,634 to McConnell and Associates for converting the Crestview tennis courts into basketball courts, which is a project turned out real nice. So I don't have any additional questions or concerns with any of this, and would move for approval of both voucher reports.
Motion to approve both pardon me, both voucher reports by Commissioner Mays.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll make a motion to approve the correction orders.
Second.
Motion to approve correction orders by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item B, District Attorney's Office, number 1, consider the approval of transferring $146,891.75 to the District Attorney's Office renovation job ledger from the remaining balance of the District Attorney's 2024 General Fund and 2025 General Fund for renovations associated with the courthouse remodel project.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Kage, Shawnee County District Attorney. This request is before you today because we have, as you know, been going through construction and renovation over in the courthouse. And this is an attempt to settle our outstanding bill with Sene. Their work is not yet complete on our level, but there was a holdup related to the movement of some servers, which is ongoing, and I anticipate that'll be complete in short order. So that is the foundation of this request.
Any questions? I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item B2, consider authorization and execution of contract C364-2024, a 48-month contract with Enterprise Fleet Management for a 2024 Chevrolet Equinox RS 4-door all-wheel drive.
So 2 weeks ago, I was here before you trying to get the same vehicle. Enterprise had given me assurances that the vehicle was secured after this was approved and it was signed off on. They then notified me they were in fact incorrect. It was no longer secured. So we're trying to get the same vehicle from a different place.
So this is clarification. We're getting a different vehicle, but not getting two vehicles.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, the other vehicle is no longer available. So this is an attempt to find that same model, and that's why we're back here.
Okay. That was good. I thought initially that we were getting a secondary vehicle for the District Attorney's Office, so this clarifies that. So, all right. Any other questions?
I'd move for approval.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item C, Public Works, number 1, consider authorization and execution of amendment number 12, contract C365-24 to contract 372-2005 with Finney and Turnipseed Transportation and Civil Engineering LLC, which extends ongoing Shawnee County Bridge inventory inspection, appraisal, reporting, and related engineering services through 2026, and initiates the inspection and evaluation of very large culvert structures. This amendment has a not-to-exceed amount of $128,250, which will be funded using the Public Works Special Bridge Funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Courtney House, Director of Public Works. As you know, our bridges, it's required that our 261 bridges be inspected every 2 years. So this is just a contract to provide that service over the next 2-year period. It includes the inspection itself and the publication of a report. And then for the first time, I would like to start inspecting our very large culverts. These are structures that start at 10 foot and go up to 20 foot. These are major structures in themselves, although they're not bridges and they're not mandated for inspection by the feds. I believe they are important enough structures that we should provide inspection. My plan is to do an inspection every 4 years, or in other words, inspect half of them every 2 years. And I think it's important for public safety and in order for us to start, how do I want to say, administer a replacement program on these structures, that we know what we have. So with that, I look forward to your questions.
You
Questions?
said culverts over 10 feet in diameter?
10 foot in span, up
In
to
span.
20 foot, which would, you know, at 20 foot bridges start, and so this would be 10 to 20 foot.
Okay.
10 foot doesn't seem like very long. I mean, isn't that like a driveway or smaller than a driveway in most cases?
Yeah, in KDOT, let me clarify something too. KDOT classifies these structures differently than everything else. They used to call them 500 series because they had a 500 number, but they were important enough to KDOT that KDOT treated them special. Again, I think these structures are getting to be large enough that we should provide some inspection services for those. Again, not to the level of what we do bridges. No load rating, no detailed reports that the feds require, but we should have enough inspection that we can develop some kind of a replacement program. This is an important thing that we do in the county. These structures deserve that kind of oversight.
How many are there?
270.
Okay, and is the diameter taken into consideration or just the span?
Well, for round pipes, there's a criteria that is approximate to 10 foot. I mean, it's not exactly, because the 10 foot assumes a square or rectangular opening, but there is a definition for round structures that helps define whether, what the span is. And it essentially at the water line, if that curved surface is 10 foot at the water line, it's considered in that category. I hope that makes some sense. I don't want to get too technical.
I think I get it.
Yeah.
Kurt, if I was a landowner that had property that was adjacent to a culvert or a bridge, do I get any sort of notice or notification of what, if it's going to be replaced or worked on, or what the status is? Or is there a place where I can go where I might be able to easily find what the status of that bridge or culvert is?
Okay, of course, any bridge that we're replacing within the next 5 years is on our 5-year CIP, and that should be on the county's website. The second thing that alerts an owner to a bridge replacement project is that we will likely come talk to them, because if we're going to replace a bridge, we're probably going to need some right-of-way in the vicinity of the new structure. So we're going to come to that landowner and say, hey, would you sell us a strip of land so we can get this new structure in? My idea on the 10 to 20 foot structures is to do the same thing. We would create a set of plans. We would let the project to a contractor. If we needed right-of-way, we would buy right-of-way. So I think there's a number of ways that the adjacent landowners are notified to an upcoming bridge project.
I just look at, what communication can we have, better communication with our neighbors, the landowners, as to what our upcoming plans may be. Or if the bridge has been inspected and there's no issues, no problems, it's not set for replacement, just notifying them of that as well.
Well, generally, no news, I would say, is good news. And I don't know if that's the way you want it handled, but traditionally, if we're not notifying the public that a bridge is closed, that's good news. Obviously, we're not going to allow an unsafe bridge to remain open. So.
Sure. Maybe Commissioner Rippon?
I just had a question. Kurt, we're responsible for bridges even on township roads, right?
Yes, sir.
Does the same apply for culverts?
We're responsible for all culverts that have an opening greater than 25 square feet. So these 10 to 20 foot structures are all county responsibility.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
C2, consider authorization and execution of contract C366-2024 with Cook, Flatt, and Strobel Engineers, PA, to provide professional design and construction engineering services for a bridge replacement project on Northwest Valencia Road over the Silver Lake Drainage Ditch, 2 bridges, at a total not to exceed cost of $155,000. Funding for this contract will be paid by using the county bridge portions of the 1/2 cent 2017 to 2031 county-wide retailers sales tax program.
Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. In our ongoing attempts to upgrade the bridges in Shawnee County for 2026, we want to replace 2 bridges on Valencia Road. One bridge is a 1/4 mile north of US 24, and the second bridge is approximately 1/2 mile north of US 24. This project will be led as a KDOT project with shared county state funds. Unfortunately, the design is not participating. In other words, the county is responsible for 100% of that cost. And again, we're talking about 2 structures. And so this contract here would allow Cook Flat Strobel to design these 2 structures for us, prepare construction plans, submit those plans to KDOT for review, and then hopefully they would let the project at some point in January of 2026, it says here, and we could get 2 new structures at a cost savings.
Kurt, I noticed that it said that there was only one respondent, and that would
Yes.
be in Cook Flat and Strobel.
Yes.
Is that unusual that we only have one response?
Well, I think right now, our consultants, like our contractors, are very busy. And our consultant that we use a lot is Finian Turnip Seed, and I think they're to the point that they can't handle any more work. So it's good to have Cook Flat Strobel available to do those projects that Finian Turnip Seed can't or won't do. Cook Flat Strobel does a good job, and we're glad that we can partner with them on those types of projects.
If we were to delay this project, is it imminent danger for the public, or is it something that if we were to delay it, we might see more competitive bids at a later time?
You know, I think Cook Flat, if you look at what we typically pay for a bridge replacement, I think this is a very competitive price. And when you factor in that it's going to be a KDOT-led project, so there's a little more strings tied to the project, I think this price here is a good price.
Other questions?
No, I just would say that sometimes delaying things makes them more expensive too.
They can. You can. I agree.
And another thing about delaying, unfortunately, is the landowners there have contacted me numerous times asking when these 2 bridges were going to be replaced, and we've delayed them a couple times. And so I really, for the benefit of the community, I would really like to get these projects moving.
Okay. And again, kind of referencing back to my prior question about what contact we have with the neighbors and letting them know where projects are at.
Yeah.
But again, for the public's information, I always like to question if we only have one bidder, you know, are we getting the best price and are we getting the best product? So,
I believe we are.
Commissioner Rippon?
No questions, but I would move for approval.
I'll second.
There's a motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item C3, consider authorization and execution of contract C367-2024 with Finian Turnip Seed Transportation and Civil Engineering LLC for professional design services related to a feasibility study establishing alternate locations and approach alignments for a possible bridge replacement near the intersection of Northwest 70th Street and Northwest Valencia Road. That the $65,800 cost of this contract will be paid using the county bridges portion of the 1/2 cent 2017 to 2031 countywide retailers sales tax program.
Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. As you know, this is one of those marsh arch bridges that we've been concerned about lately. We're monitoring this bridge. On the arches that make up the primary structural member of this bridge, there are 2 longitudinal cracks. They open and close. There's no relationship to the temperature or the weather, but we are monitoring this bridge. It is presently posted for 7 tons. And probably as you remember too, Public Works did not recommend replacing this bridge, especially at its present location. It's located in a deep or a tight bend in the creek, and it's not a good location for a bridge. So to maybe look into a replacement, no guarantees, we would like to see where we might be able to relocate that bridge so that number 1, it'll span the creek, and number 2, it'll span the railroad. We can get rid of a railroad crossing. Maybe the feds or the railroad would participate in the cost of our project. It would be a major improvement for the community because then they wouldn't have to sit there and wait for the many trains to pass, mainly coal trains. they could have a bridge that they could use to span the tracks. With that, I look forward to your questions.
Yeah, I know currently they've had to reroute bus routes and things like that because of the limitations on this bridge, and and farm equipment, it's can't go across there, so it's had an impact on the locals in that area.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see what they come up with as far as a location for the bridge, because it is in a tricky little nook in the creek there. And, so,
Kurt, are we working with the fire district as well when they're looking at emergency services and replacement of this bridge?
We would. And of course, they're aware of the situation on the existing bridge. They have a lot of equipment that they can't use this structure because of its low posting. So any replacement would be a tremendous improvement for the fire district.
Other questions?
So I understand the location of the current bridge is poor. I've looked at all the satellite photos and know that it's probably shouldn't have been built there in the first place, but it was. What I'd hate is to spend a bunch of money on a consultant that tells us to just put it back where it is now. I mean, is that a possibility?
I don't think it's a possibility, because we've been working with this consultant since the latest bridge issues came up maybe 18 months ago.
Okay.
And plus we have records of bridge inspections, and we've had to place heavy riprap in the stream to prevent undercutting of the abutment. So I don't think, I mean, whenever you do a feasibility study, one of the options is do nothing. Or sure, you could say replace it in kind at its present location, not in kind because we're not going to build any arch bridges, but it's probably not a preferred thing. It's a highly undesirable option for us.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is if they come back and say it's going to be $5 million to replace this, I mean, that's another thing that we'll have to discuss at that point, right?
Absolutely. That's why we're doing this. So we know what the boundaries are. And then we can communicate with the public, hey, this bridge replacement is going to cost $5 million. Where are we going to get the money? Or, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think the feasibility study is important, because if we want to go after some railroad crossing removal funds or Federal Railroad Association funds, we can do that because we have a pretty good idea of what the preferred alternate is.
Okay. All right.
Other questions?
no. I would move for approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon,
Second.
second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item C4, consider authorization and execution of contract C368-2024 with Foley Equipment Company of Wichita, Kansas, for the 2025 purchase of a Caterpillar mini excavator using Sourcewell, a government purchasing cooperative. Funding will come from the Public Works Special Machinery Fund.
Courtney House, Director of Public Works. These next two items are kind of related, in that when we talked budget here a few months ago and our 5-year CIP was approved, the commissioners, you guys approved 2 backhoes. Okay. We still want to buy a backhoe, but we tweaked the second backhoe into this mini excavator. Essentially, they do the exact same thing. A backhoe has that arm that hooks and excavates. This mini excavator does the very same thing. The only difference is the mini excavator is cheaper, it's tracked. We feel like it gives us more flexibility as far as getting into rough terrain. So we would like to tweak one of the backhoes into a mini excavator. No other changes. And again, they perform basically the same functions for us. So this first item, we would buy this mini excavator from Foley Equipment using Sourcewell. It's a government purchasing cooperative, very well known. And our price would be $96,000. We would pay for it out of Public Works Special Machinery Fund. after July 1 of 2025.
Questions? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item C5, consider authorization and execution of contract C369-2024 with Foley Equipment Company, Wichita, Kansas, for the 2025 purchase of a Caterpillar backhoe using Sourcewell, a government purchasing cooperative. Funding will come from the Public Works Special Machinery Fund, $53,851, and the 2025 Capital Outlay Fund, $100,000.
Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. This is the backhoe that was approved during the budget process here 2 to 3 months ago. The cost, again, purchased from Foley via Sourcewell. It's approximately $154,000. $100,000 of that would come out of 2025 capital outlay. The remainder would come out of the Public Works Special Machinery Fund. Again, this was approved, the capital outlay funds were approved, and I look forward to your questions.
Questions?
Do you have any estimate how much we're gonna get on Purple Wave for the equipment that we're getting rid of to replace?
We're guessing that we'll get probably 50 to 60,000
Okay.
total with all the things that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's not bad.
Any other questions?
No, I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item C6, consider authorization and execution of contract C370-2024 with Foley Equipment Company, Wichita, Kansas, for the 2025 purchase of a Caterpillar compact track loader using Sourcewell, a government purchasing cooperative. Funding will come from the Public Works Special Machinery Fund.
Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. I hope this is my last item for your benefit. This is, again, we're purchasing this from Foley using Sourcewell, as the county clerk mentioned. The cost is $114,200. In our budget process for 2025, this was described as a tracked skid steer. Here I call it something slightly different, but it's the same thing. So we would pay for this out of our Public Works Special Machinery Fund.
Questions? No. Go ahead.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you,
Thank
Kurt.
you.
Ms. Beck, I'm sorry about this next item, so, next item.
I see it. Item D, Sheriff's Office. Number 1, acknowledge receipt of correspondence that the Sheriff's Office will be renewing the annual software maintenance agreement with Tyler Technologies for New World. This maintenance period will be from December 1, 2024 to November 30, 2025, and it will cost $342,456.26. Per agreement, this cost will be shared between the Sheriff's Office, DOC, Emergency Management, Topeka Police, and Topeka Fire. The Sheriff's Office, DOC, and Emergency Management share will be approximately 52% of the total cost, and the Topeka Police and Fire will be approximately 48% of the cost. The Sheriff's Office will pay for their share out of budgeted funds. You can sit down now.
Yeah, it's quite a paragraph, isn't it?
You're the boss.
Quite the paragraph. All right.
Good morning, Commissioners. Captain Justin Vest with the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about the New World Records Management System. If you'd like, I can give you a brief overview of what it does and how everybody in the public service and emergency management or emergency response world actually utilizes it.
Yeah, if you would, please.
Okay, so Tyler Technologies has a software that is New World, and New World is a records management system that is it's the backbone of all of the data and information that we collect, that the jail collects, that the fire department, that the Topeka Police Department collect, and it brings it all into one central location. We're able to access that information, utilize that information for both records keeping and also for investigations. So it has been a wonderful product for us. Luckily, we do have partners that are also paying part of the cost of the overall annual maintenance agreement cost. And the reason why they do so is because they understand also that this is a product that it's essential for our daily operations.
So I see that we're doing the renewal, but then this 48% is paid by the city of Topeka. Do they also make a vote and presentation on approval at the city level, or?
Well, I would assume that they do.
Okay.
It's significant. Their contribution, along with the Topeka Fire Department's contribution, is $148,332 approximately. And so some of that is going to be because they opted to purchase a new portion of LERMs that is going to, I think, will be more functional to their needs. But that is a significant amount that I do believe that they would have to go in front of the city council for, but I'm not really sure how they do their business.
But we are the primary on the contract.
That is correct. Yeah.
Other questions?
No? I'll move for approval.
Motion to
Or
approve.
I guess to acknowledge.
Motion to acknowledge receipt of the correspondence by Commissioner Mays.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item E, Parks and Recreation, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-371-2024 with Blakesley Lawn Care for the maintenance of parklands listed in Package K with funding from the Parks and Recreation operating budget at a total annual cost of $184,740.
Ms. Beck, we could probably do 2 and 3 at the same time because they're all the same.
And they don't have to put RFP, just in case anybody's listening, they don't have to put RFP numbers in their memo.
Okay.
I'm just saying,
All
I'm
right.
just saying,
All
just
right.
saying. Item E2, anybody here listening? Item E2, consider
Especially you.
authorization and execution of contract C-372-2024 with Maine Lawn and Landscape for the maintenance of parklands listed for funding with Parks and Recreation operating budget at a total annual cost of $272,238.24. Item E3, consider authorization and execution of contracts C-373-2024 with Supreme Green Landworks LLC for the maintenance of parklands listed in the packages with funding from the Parks and Recreation and county facilities operating budgets at a total cost of $217,146.12.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So thank you, Ms. Beck, for that, and we will leave out those numbers moving forward. When I talk to you guys about this, I often mention it as our mowing contracts, but I just want to talk a little bit about how it's quite a bit more than mowing. These folks they take care of landscape beds, they weed landscape beds, they irrigate, they overseed in the fall, and obviously they mow and weed eat and those things. So, it's roughly about 50% of the property that we maintain, we contract out for these services. And I was also asked earlier in the week about, as you look through these packages, we start with package K. So
G.
what about, G. So what about A through F? Well, we had to make some changes on that particular contract, so that is under contract, those packages, and then we'll be back up next year to bid those out. We would like to go with, for package K, we'd like to go with Blakesley Lawn Care. Package H, M, N, and O is Main Lawn and Landscape. And then package G, I, J, L, and P, Supreme Green. So we do have experience with all 3 of these firms. They were not all the lowest, but they are definitely the most responsive, and we have had the best luck with these 3 as far as the folks that submitted bids. So I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Tim on these 3 items?
Tim, is geography taken into account when we're doing this? I mean, are we trying to get clusters of parks for the same contractor, or?
We are, yeah,
Okay.
we do, and that's one of the reasons that these packages are kind of in a weird order this year, is previously, we would have our maintenance hubs at Lake Shawnee and Gage Park, and we would sort of radiate out from those two areas with our staff, to cut down on windshield time and that sort of thing, and then fill in all the gaps with contracted mowers. A year ago or so, we switched up and created 2 park districts that we maintain. And so that forced us really and then we also purchased the Florence property, and we're moving all of our maintenance operations there. So that forced us to really look at how we were laying this out, and we made quite a few changes. So yes, we do take that into consideration, and we do try to group these areas together, not only to help us out, but to help the vendors out as well.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? No. I'll make a motion to approve items E1, E2, and E3.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item E4, consider approval to allow the department to solicit bids and/or proposals for the purchase of supplies and equipment necessary for the operation of Parks and Recreation programs and facilities in 2025.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So we do come up here annually and ask to do this. There's several things that we bid out throughout the year just to operate our department. We've listed several of them. This is apparel, T-shirts for youth leagues, sports leagues, staff. Our Spirit of Kansas fireworks are in there, hitting some of the highlights. Grass seed, turf fertilizer, signage, so on and so forth. I want to make sure that everyone understands, though, we're just asking permission to bid these things out. We will still come back here and follow the purchasing policy, so any contract that we enter into or anytime we exceed the threshold, we'll be up here asking your permission to accept these bids throughout the course of next year. So, be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
No, I move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item E5, consider approval of a request to go out for RFP utilizing Gage Park Improvement Authority funds for the purchase and installation of a sky trail at Playland in Gage Park.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So excited to be up here today to talk about this and show you some of the plans that we're making for Playland in Gage Park. When you look at this map, and I know there's a lot going on here. Uh-oh, there we go. The sky trail that we're calling it is this line right here, this blue and white line that traverses through Playland. Just to give you a little point of reference, down here is the mini train station, and it's a Zoo Parkway down here. So that gives you an idea of what we're looking at. What we're asking today is to go out for an RFP to design a structure like this. Now, we know there are more than one company that can do this or something close to it. We have been working with one company just to get an idea of what's entailed and what this might look like. So it would really be the cornerstone, we think, of the renovation process at Playland. It's let's flip to the next. Oh, here I'm doing that. Actually, right there. That gives you an idea of what we're looking at, and up to the bottom of that trail is about 15 feet high. So once complete, if we use this particular model, you would be up over 20 feet in the air. The top of the structure would be 20 feet high. So some of the questions that I've gotten as we've gone through this process is, well, what about trees? You know, are you going to have to take out a bunch of trees to accomplish this? And I'm happy to say no. You know, on this map, and I realize it's pretty busy, all of those circles that you see, we had this area surveyed. Those, with the exception of one, that has been removed for health reasons already. Those are the existing trees. And so we've really tried to lay this out to minimize any impact on the tree canopy, because quite honestly, that's part of it. You know, we want, when the kids and even adults get up in this structure, they'll be up in that tree canopy, and that's kind of what makes it cool. So we will lose a couple. We think, right now at max, we think 4 trees. If we did this plan exactly, we would need to remove. But that's a pretty small number compared to how many trees are there. So we're asking to go out for an RFP and see what we get back, and be happy to answer any questions.
So, Tim, can this be expanded in the future if it, I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I know this was one of the ideas that was floated for Family Park in the initial design phase.
Yeah.
And we figured it was not appropriate for that park, but this, it probably makes way more sense. I mean, I could envision a scenario which this is really popular and maybe we want to extend it, you know, a little bit further down the road.
We could. I mean, this design, actually, when we first started this, it's a great question. We were gonna stop it, I think right here, maybe, that's where this number 6 is. Could have possibly been one more over. But we have already decided that we want to run the length of Playland. But in the future, we could, run this the other direction and head over, you know, and go through Animal Land as well. So, yeah, there's options. Yeah, there would be nothing to keep us from doing that, other than funding, which is a good point. I haven't mentioned it, but this is, all of this would be paid out of Gage Park improvement funds. So we're not asking for any money out of our budget to do this.
Yeah. No property tax dollars being
No
spent on this.
property tax dollars.
Commissioner Rippon?
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of other little
Yeah,
amenities, and there's some tube slides and what are those,
yeah,
those
so.
swinging, I don't
Well,
know.
let's go to the, so first let's talk about this a little bit. As you look at these areas where you have these towers, you need a way to get up in this thing. So there's different methods of that. There's a couple of different things. If we went with this company, there's different ways to get up in it. And then when you're getting out, there are different slides. We show just these spiral slides, but there's also other versions of that. And we don't know, we'll have other companies hopefully come back with maybe some different ideas. But yes, to answer your question, this alone has a lot of play value. And then, of course, this isn't part of what we're talking about today, but each time you see one of these green areas, like here PA9, it says this darker green area, that's a playground pod, we call it. So each one of these different areas would have play value, just different things, different amenities. So this trail ultimately will not be the only thing running through Playland. We'll have a lot of other things for kids and families to enjoy.
And will those be brought to us at another time?
They will, yeah.
Okay,
This
so
is the first step.
does this include any kind of changes to the existing Playland other than the addition? So I know that a couple of the like apparatus things that we have there now are pretty rough looking.
Yeah,
Will those be removed as
Those
part
will-
of this project?
they will be removed as part of this overall project. And to answer your question, I think this is just the first step, because we've got to figure out exactly where this will go before we can move forward with the other things we'd like to do. But very quickly, I would anticipate within a month to 10 weeks, we'll be back up here asking to move forward with other portions of this plan. So we would like to remove most, if not all, of the play equipment that's there now. There are a couple of pieces that we may salvage. We'll see how it goes. May move them to other areas, but ultimately when we're done, we think this whole area will be brand new.
Okay. And then I assume we're gonna move fast enough on this that everything will be functional by springtime, or pretty close to it at least?
I would love to say that was the case, but I doubt it. I think we would have already had to have been started to be able to be done by spring. So I think we'll try to, as I mentioned, some of those playground pieces aren't in terrible shape. If we can keep those up and work around those so that we've got something for folks to do during this process, we'll do that. But I think it's going to be, well, it's going to be something we'll really have to try to coordinate. You look down here, like this is, these are ideas we've come up with, and you know, we're showing here in the future, and I know we're kind of getting off the subject here, but that being a zip line, right? And so it's a 3-bay zip line. 2 of them just regular, one for a more accessible line where you get strapped in so everybody can enjoy it. That is really not, we could do that today. You know, we could start on that. So I think that's what we'll probably try to do. Get moving on this Sky Trail and then start trying to piece these things in a way that doesn't completely close down the park. So we can, you know, keep it going, keep it open as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, and I think there's like a couple of challenges. I mean, obviously, when the mini train opens, you know,
Yeah.
kids are gonna wanna play on the playground.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we wanna close the playground completely, but I also know that we don't want a bunch of kids playing in a construction site at
Absolutely.
the same time. And so
Absolutely.
it's,
From
gonna
what
be
I
difficult.
know about this Sky Trail, the big issue and the thing that we'll want to accomplish right away are the footings. So each one of these towers, the large towers, is going to require a footing. So we're going to be back up here on the 21st asking to do some geological work, some testing to decide what those footings will have to be so that we're ready. So we're trying to get some of that construction part done. My understanding, at least from this one company, is that once those footings are done and the towers would go up and these could come in pieces and be set relatively quick, you know, big sections. So we'll see. It'll be challenging.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll always have Animal Land open. You know,
which is
just to have something to
everybody's
do,
favorite,
something
right?
to do.
So, all right, well, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item E6, consider approval to issue a request for qualifications for professional design services necessary to prepare bidding plans, specification documents, and cost estimates for 4 additional tennis courts to be built at Costover Tennis Center.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So this is a project that's been in the works for quite some time, and we've worked very closely with the Topeka Tennis Association on this, and and Racket and Paddle, the firm that we hired to run Costover, who are doing an outstanding job. We all think with the addition of 4 extra courts that would open us up to some much larger national tournaments. Gets us to the magic number. We have 18 courts out there right now, so that would get us up to 22. You know, they've already in 1 year had a drastic improvement in really everything across the board. We're talking just daily people coming out and playing. Membership to the TTA is way up. League play, which was very spotty, has grown. And tournaments. The group that's in there now is very connected in the tennis world. As a matter of fact, they're going to Florida next week to just be in the know about tournaments and things that are coming up with the USTA. So anyway, we think that this would be a great move for us. It would bring people into town, heads on beds, and those sort of things. We'd be happy to answer any questions, but what we're asking today is just to go out for a request for qualifications and have somebody design this for us.
Commissioner Mays.
Tim, my understanding this was also going to include resurfacing of the existing courts at the same time.
It will, so I didn't put that in the memo because there's not gonna be any design really needed for that portion of it. But yes, once we design this project, then we'll go out for I'm assuming we'll go out for an RFP to hire somebody to build it. And during that process, we will ask that we build the 4 courts, any sidewalks or lights and all that will be included in that process. And then also resurfacing the existing 18 courts would be part of that next step.
Okay, so how much design needs to go into, I mean, tennis
Well,
court, seems like we're not reinventing the wheel here.
You're not, but the one thing that we don't want to do is make any mistakes, you know, and I think the biggest thing from a design perspective is quite possibly is just the courts themselves and how they're constructed. And post-tension concrete, obviously, but even that, you got to make sure that it's done right. I mean, I know there's horror stories all over of even post-tension concrete failing, and then you've got cracks, and then you've got issues. So we want to make sure that it's designed right, it's laid out right, so that moving forward in the future, we're not coming back, I'm not coming back up here 5 years from now saying we're going to have to tear one of these up or replace it. So I think there's a little more to it than just marking out tennis courts and pouring concrete. We just want to make sure we're doing it the right way.
Will this also include any electrical
It
and other amenities or utilities that need to be there?
It would, absolutely.
Yeah, I think maybe to Commissioner Mays, to answer your question, there's some bleachers, I think, areas they need, and how the thing is viewed from the
Right.
public, and so there's a little bit of thought that needs to go into the layout
Yeah, I would
and
agree.
how it dovetails into the existing facilities, so.
Yep.
Other questions?
No, I would move for approval.
Second, motion made for approval by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you, Tim. Our next item.
Item F, Noxious Weed Department, number 1, consider approval of the sole source purchase of 1 roadside spraying unit from Fairbank Equipment in Wichita, Kansas. Acquisition will utilize the Weed Department capital outlay.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Landon, Director of the Weed Department. As Ms. Baker said this morning, I'm asking for permission to do a sole source for a roadside spray unit. Fairbank Equipment has built the previous 3 units from us before. They, using all the same controller types, and so the software integrates in with our GPS systems, so everything just kind of works together. A brief history on how we got to this point needing a new roadside spray unit. The leases come up on our 2020 vehicles. 1 vehicle was surrendered to Enterprise. That equipment was removed. It will be reinstalled on one of the new trucks for the lease. Roughly that cost to remove and install that sprayer is about $4,000. The second vehicle was sold to Brown County Noxious Weed Department as a complete package, truck sprayer and all. And so the sprayer that we're requesting the sole source on will be the new sprayer for that truck. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
When do you anticipate this all being done?
Good question. The new trucks were delivered last month. Fairbank is in the process of a move, and so they fit us in to get the equipment removed off the one truck so it could be surrendered back to Enterprise so we weren't paying a lease on it. Currently, we're shooting for about January, February, so they have guaranteed me we will have that truck and up and running before spray season.
Okay.
And so currently, we are down both trucks, and so just trying to get by with the rest of the season with 1 truck and 3 gators, so.
But we have the trucks in possession now, they just don't have the equipment on them.
Correct, correct.
Are we able to still take the pull-behind sprayers and
We
stuff if
can,
we
yeah,
need
yeah,
to?
we've been utilizing the gators quite a bit because we're working on honeysuckle on the trail. So, you know, if timing worked out perfect, this is kind of one that did because we're close to our shop and can access all those trails from it, so.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Other questions? I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Thank you,
John.
Commissioner.
Our next item.
Item G, Human Resources, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C374-2024 with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas, Inc. to include increases to the high deductible health plan deductible.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis, Director of Administrative Services. We have Britt Crenson with Blue Cross and Blue Shield with us today to talk about the 2025 contracts. There is no change to the administrative rates, the plan deductible, or the co-insurance for the PPO plan. There is one change for the high deductible plan, and that is the deductible itself. There'll be a $100 increase for employee only, taking it from $3,200 to $3,300, and then a $200 increase for the deductible of the family plan, taking it from $6,400 to $6,600. There are no other changes to the high deductible plan, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
No, my only question to you was if we were changing the seating for the actual HSA portion of this, and it sounds like there's this not included in this at all, so we'll probably need to look at that down the road, but other than that, no questions.
Since we have our Blue Cross Blue Shield representative here, looking forward, do you see anything that we should be budgeting for, any big changes that will be coming down when it comes to health insurance for Shawnee County in the future?
You know, the only thing that what we see kind of from an industry's perspective is just the overall, since you're a self-funded plan, is the stop loss component of it, which is where we take on the risk at a certain level. We're seeing a lot of pressure in the marketplace relative to kind of the loss ratios of that product across the industry, not so much specific to Blue Cross of Kansas, but I think if there's any potential upside risk to it relative to the insurance component of your plan, it's going to be, is there going to be pressure on that high cost claim, which is that just kind of seems to be inherent in the industry, and we've seen a lot of articles published here of our competitors looking at hardening rates, increasing rates at a more rapid pace. And that's not something that we are planning for, but I think that's a risk that exists to not only the county, but relative to all health plans, and then just the overall financial pressure and the reimbursements and demand from the systems as their cost structure increases, labor rates, just the inherent things that we see across essentially all industries. But I think we'll see those cost pressures, potentially more in 2026 than reflected in 2025. But healthcare costs continue to be a trend of 9 to 12%, and overall, once you factor in pharmacy, and I don't see any relief in that unless something comes from the new administration.
Questions? All right. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Our next item.
Item H, Treasurer, number 1, consider approval of the reclassification of the Treasury Accounting Specialist 1 to a Treasury Accountant 1.
Good morning, Commissioners. Larry Maw, Shawnee County Treasurer. First, the mandatory items. This reclassification has been reviewed and approved by HR, and the current 2025 budget will support this change. I don't need to tell you that over the next few months we're going to be transitioning to a new treasurer and a new deputy treasurer in the Treasurer's Department. This represents a change in 50% of our top management. We've known this is coming. We've been planning this transition for months, and pleased to say with the election of Susan Duffy. Susan, please stand up. The most important part now is in place, and we're ready to start the transition.
While I'm very, very proud of what we've accomplished over the last 12 years, and I'm proud of our current management team, when you do this sort of a transition, it's a good time to step back and take a look and see if you can actually improve the operation and put a stronger team in place. And this item represents an opportunity to do that. And so with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the Treasurer Ma?
No questions.
I'll move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. We are at a 1 hour mark. Typically, we would stand for a moment, but instead of that, let's take a 5-minute recess. We will reconvene at 10:05. All right, everybody. I hope you all used your 5 minutes appropriately. So, Madam Clerk, we're back.
Okay. Item I, Department of Corrections, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-375-2024 to renew maintenance of the timekeeping Guard 1 Plus system at the detention centers for $40,015 to be paid from the detention budget.
Brian Cole, I believe you're up for your presentation. You're good.
There's always something going on. Good news. Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is just the renewal of our annual contract with Guard Tour. Plus, this is our recording and documentation system. It's a paperless system. We still maintain paper that has to do with the offender statuses of those that are on suicide watch, rounds by staff to ensure they're doing their counted staff, offender demeanor, and everything goes in. It is a valuable tool for our audits and our accreditation, but this is something we've been doing for many years, and we have handheld devices that go on and allows a more efficient and documentation, even for liability issues or when the county council needs. So this is just a renewal of a contract that we have.
Any questions?
None.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Item J, Information Technology, number 1, authorization and execution of contract C-378-2024, the purchase and installation of network equipment and cabling at the Parks and Rec Kansas Complex at a cost of $42,765.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Mark Price, Information Technology. This is just for the installation of networking and connections to all the remote buildings at the Kansas Complex. I can answer any questions.
Mark, is this work that we did ourselves?
No, this is a contractor that will be coming in and doing it.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Good. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you, Mark. Our next item.
Item K, Stormont Valley Event Center, number 1, consider request to issue an RFP for the replacement of the Hydro Rib hydraulic basketball goals.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Kellen Seitz, Stormont Valley Event Center. This request and the two following are pretty exciting pieces of business for us to request. As you recall, these are from our 2025 CIP award funding for the replacement of our basketball goals, the acquisition of our new modular sport flooring surface, and then the repair and resurfacing of our existing basketball court. So this first request is for the replacement of our two new basketball goals to assist alongside the replacement and repair of our courts.
Questions?
No.
So,
Commissioner Mays?
just to clarify, so the existing goals don't meet standards for competitive play any longer, right?
Correct. They are pretty old. We have gotten a lot of use out of them for what we produce currently with those basketball goals. Things like Harlem Globetrotters, they operate fine. For things of maybe even youth sports, they would operate fine. However, as we get into high school collegiate level activity or anything beyond that level, they do not currently meet the specs to be able to provide that level of playing. So they would need to be replaced. We would still keep these two goals that we have, utilizing them in other areas and for other activities. But the new basketball goals would allow us to, really chase after big pieces of collegiate athletic activity, which I'm happy to report we were just awarded the NAIA National Cheer and Dance Competitions for 2026 and 2027. We have another piece of business that we've bid on that we feel pretty confident about that we should be getting some communication back this month on for, again, additional collegiate athletic activity.
Great, appreciate that.
Questions?
No. I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item K2, consider request to issue an RFP for the resurfacing and repair of the existing Robbins Wood basketball court.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, this request is for the repair of our current basketball court and volleyball court playing surface. It hasn't seen a repair or resurfacing in quite some time. There are some areas that do need repair, resurfacing, and allow us to, again, continue to get those high school and collegiate activity association events for the future years.
Questions?
Not really a question, but so much more of a statement. I mean, I can't believe it's been this long. Last time I saw that court, I was surprised to find the old maroon colors and logos and everything on it. It looks like it is in dire need of a refresh.
Yep.
So I think it's been a long time coming.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item K3, consider a request to issue an RFP for a modular sports flooring surface.
This request is for the acquisition of our new sport court playing surface. This would approximately be a little bit over 52,000 square feet of sport court surface that could be erected inside Exhibition Hall or Landon Arena, or both, if we get athletic activities that are large enough to support both spaces. I'm happy to say we have already developed our bid process, our pricing structure, and bid packets. We've already been eliciting bids for this activity from both collegiate level, some youth levels, some private basketball tournament functions, and so on and so forth in conjunction with the Topeka Area Sports Commission. So having this piece, which was approved as part of our 2025 CIP project, is going to be the most paramount to ensuring our ability to shift into acquiring more youth and high school and collegiate level activities for the next 5 years.
Okay. Commissioner Mays?
No, good. I think this is a great idea, though. This is something that I think we've already seen a big booking because of it. So, any idea when it's going to be done?
You're talking
the
this.
RFP. When does the RFP close?
Yeah, so RFP on sport court, I believe closes, I don't have that sheet right in front of me, but it's sometime mid-December. The RFP for the current basketball court is a little different. We do have a bid walkthrough on that for that first week of December for contractors to come in and take a look at that space. That's about the only time we can get the court down during our event activities that we currently have ongoing. And then the repair of that basketball floor will be the last, June into that following month. So I think the final 2 weeks of June into the first 2 weeks of July for the repair and replacement of that current court.
But are we certain that we'll have the, I guess for the MIAA or NAIA?
Yeah, NAIA starts in 2026.
Oh, okay, so we'll have
so,
plenty of time.
Yeah, and then the other piece of collegiate business that we have a bid in on would begin in 2027 and run through 2030.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Questions?
Well, I think it's just a good move because there's so many cities now have some indoor sports venue
Yeah.
fairly large, and we really don't have that in Topeka, and that But this court gives us the flexibility to do that right at the Stormont Vale Event Center and be bigger than a lot of places too.
Yeah.
So that's,
Correct, and we actually have a piece of business that we're chasing that would be within Q1 of 2025 and need the use of about 2 or 3 courts. We have reached out to one of the manufacturers and suppliers that we've been working with to develop this process through the 2025 CIP pitch. And we were made aware that we do have the possibility to get a couple of those courts during that first quarter to be able to go after that piece of business in the first quarter of 2025, which that would be the first event that would utilize any of these surfaces.
Kelly, what all sports would use a court like this?
Yeah, the court itself can be used through a multitude of different athletic activities. You've got cheer and dance opportunities. Obviously, you have basketball, volleyball. They do make a little bit different court surfaces for things like pickleball and those types of other racket sports. But we're really looking for getting the most use out of this court surface as possible and trying to get as many different activities to utilize the space as possible. So we're really focusing on cheer, dance, basketball, and volleyball.
Any other questions?
Nope. I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays. Second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Item K4, consider a capital expenditure request for Seaman Fire Alarm Company for repairs of the fire alarm system in Domer Arena for an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Good morning, Commissioners. Matt Rockers, Director of Operations, Stormont Vale Event Center. This request is for a capital expenditure from the Stormont Vale Event Center Capital Expenditure Fund, not to exceed $35,000 for repair of the fire alarm system in Domer Arena. We saw a complete failure of that fire alarm system in September. We did get this approved by our advisory board last month, and we are going to be purchasing all of the new heat detectors, smoke detectors, pull stations, and line cards for this repair, and then we will be replacing those ourselves.
Questions?
How old was the old system?
The old system was put in 2007, I believe. We did do an upgrade to it last year. The existing detectors, smoke detectors, heat detectors, all of the trigger devices are no longer supported or sold by Siemens. So we have to transition to their next new variation of that, which also we have to replace the line card inside of the panel, which talks to those devices.
Any other questions? All right.
I'll move to approve.
Second, Commissioner Mays makes the motion. Commissioner Cook seconds. All in favor say aye. All opposed? 3-0. Our next item.
Item K5, consider request to provide additional funding assistance for the 2024 operational year in the amount of $552,403.57 to be funded from the contingency funds.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Kellen Seitz, Stormont Vale Event Center. We are requesting additional funding allocation for the 2024 operating year. As you are aware, during the budgeting process, we do our best assessment to try and account for every piece of event activity that we think is going to be coming for the future year. That budget process oftentimes takes place prior to having the ability to actually get to contract on some of those events. So some of the events that we were budgeting for this year did not take place. Some of the events that we were budgeting for produced less than budgeted revenues. Couple that with competition and market fluctuation rates and additional inflation rates on our consumers. We are a little bit behind in terms of our operating allocation for this year. As we look forward into 2025, we have made a number of those adjustments for the 2025 operating budget year, as you saw in that 2025 budget request. In addition to that, we have already contracted a few pieces of new business for 2025 that we feel will help that revenue process for us in the coming years to avoid this situation. I will say we are operating better this year than we did last year. We do plan to operate better in 2025 than we are currently operating this year. And I think some of these business shifts, especially looking at youth sports activity, collegiate sports activity, and some of the bids that we have out will certainly help us for the years to come.
Questions? Kellen, of this request, how much of this is going back to OVG 360 as money that you would paying back to your corporate entities?
I don't have that number right off the top, but we have been holding payments on some of the funding that is allocated out towards OVG.
So this is money that would be going back towards OVG 360?
This is basically all operational monies to operate the facility, whether that's some third-party contracted services, event revenues due to event producers. We are operating at a negative budgeted subsidy, and that's where this amount comes into play.
Now, when Ag Hall, or Heritage Hall rather, did we have many weddings this last year?
We did not. We had one this year. We have redeveloped our booking platform for weddings and private party events for that space in particular to continue to make it as affordable as possible. We have come up with a booking package for that space, which includes catering and some other elements at a $54 per person price. And that's what has been rolled out, and that is starting to elicit some more booking activity for Heritage Hall in particular.
Because in the past, wasn't Heritage Hall one of the kind of premier wedding venues or receptions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good affordable wedding option, right? It's not the most expensive or kind of highlight wedding facility in the marketplace. However, it is a great lower cost, affordable wedding option for the community, and that's something we hope to get and are working towards getting back to. And I think the renovation of that space will certainly help us get there alongside the booking package and bid package platform that we've rolled out for that space.
Also, we've had some events that just didn't perform like we thought they would.
Correct. In March, we produced the Los Tucanes de Tijuana, which was a Latin show that produced negative revenues on that event. We also had budgeted for some spectacle shows this year that didn't actually take place. We had tenant team operations that didn't produce their tenant team games because the team collapsed. There were a number of factors this year that have negatively impacted our budget allocation.
Didn't Special 8 or the 38 Special, didn't it also have a negative?
It did. Yeah, it did not produce positive revenues on that event.
And Dirks Bentley.
And Dirks Bentley?
That would have been in 2023, but yeah, yes, you're correct.
And then do we have people that owe us money or owe?
Not a ton. We do have a couple of prior event contracts for this year that we are still catching and settling up on. We have one sponsorship partner that is past due a significant amount. We are working with a partner agency on collecting those funds. But for the most part, we're not extremely deficient or in most of our revenue or outstanding AR.
When you're meeting with the advisory board on a monthly basis, are you telling the advisory board how much behind we're getting to where, we're now 45 days from the end of the year, and you're asking for $500,000 to be injected into your account. Otherwise, you would have really gone over budget by $500,000.
Yes, so at every monthly advisory board meeting, we do provide our current financial status. We also provide what we refer to as a rolling financial forecast, where we think we're going to end up. This is not a new scenario. This is something we've been not only keeping our advisory board members informed of, but also representatives of the county as well.
And it's not so much that they're under budget, but they're under revenue.
Correct. I think that's the biggest piece, is that the revenues are not producing at the rate we had budgeted them to
Sorry, I
produce
missed
this
over
year.
budget. I misspoke there.
Jennifer Sauer, our financial administrator, can we talk about our contingency fund and what we have?
Yes, Jennifer Sauer, Financial Administrator. We budget $1 million each year for our contingency fund. Up to today, we have a current remaining balance of $629,000. We have a couple of items that have appeared just over the last week. The DOC had a water main break that they're dealing with, and they have an elevator repair, which would be the normal type of items that we usually see come through our contingency. And those are currently estimated at about $215,000. So the DOC is looking through their budget to see if they can find another source for that to be funded, but that's also another potential contingency item that would be coming in.
I mean, with those items, that's going to this is now going to overextend our,
This would. I'm looking, when I pulled the numbers together this morning, it looks like we will end up being $135,000 over with this ask if the DOC cannot find any funding source within their own budget for these two last emergencies that came up.
okay. And we still have, again, 45 days to go, and I know that usually it's at the end of the year when we would have issues or emergencies historically that pop up.
Absolutely, yeah, agreed.
I don't know, I'm just very frustrated with where we're at, and that, not being able to produce with our event center after the amount of money that we had go into the renovations. This was very frustrating today. And then looking at our contingency and completely expending our contingency fund, and commissioners, thoughts?
Well, I mean, like you said, we've got 45 days left. We could do a portion of this and then revisit it at the end of the year and see how much we have left at that point.
Commissioner Riplon.
Well, I guess I'd be open to that, just to see how we finish up.
Well, I'm open to that, but I think we need to have a real plan and maybe it would be best to have a work session with OVG as to how we're performing and what we're doing and what we're going to do to correct this for 2025. Because I know that, in years past, we were money ahead, and so we're money behind this year. And so just kind of what we're going to do to correct and what things we're doing, and maybe going into more detail than a commission meeting would allow us to do.
Yeah. Jennifer, you mentioned there might be some alternate funding for the DOC on the water break.
Currently, I was in communication with Tim Phelps and Brian Cole. They're checking to see if they have any money left in their budget that they would be able to allocate to this. We're doing a deep dive in their end-of-year budget projection to see if we're able to find any money there.
Okay.
Commissioner Mays, do you have a thought or an idea of how much, again?
Well, I think Jennifer would probably be a better person to ask for that. I mean, if we end up having to fund the DOC's water main break out of contingency, I mean, basically, and I think my math shows that we would be able to do the elevator repairs with the current contingency, but it doesn't leave anything else if something pops up in the next month. So, I mean, if we just, any idea, like 400, would that be?
I think if we do 400, and again, we are still, the DOC water main break, I believe that number was still increasing right now, because there was an issue where they're going to have to actually remove some cement underneath the building. It goes all the way down under the building. So it's going to be a major
Commissioner
cost.
Mays, I was thinking more along the 250 range, half of what they funded now, what they've requested, and then we can revisit this at the end of the year.
Half of what they request would be more like 275. But
Yeah, that would be right, yeah.
So,
okay. Well, let's, I'll make a motion that we amend this and award $275,000. And then with the expectation that we'll come back at the end of December, probably the meeting before Christmas, to talk about it again.
and we'll have a work session between now and then as well, to go through and talk about 2025.
Yeah.
So,
And just for your, and something that I talked to Kellen about, they did come in with a higher budget request for 2025's budget, so that there shouldn't be any large impact on our contingency fund for 2025, is the hope with the larger budget that they were allocated.
Commissioner Rippon?
No, I think that's a good plan. Let's do that.
So, motion to amend by Commissioner Mays, and amend and approve.
Amend and approve, yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays, a second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. And then we will revisit this issue, and again, expect a work session between now and then, too. Thank you, Commissioners. Our next item.
Item L, Commission Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C 377-2024, memorandum of understanding with the Top City Trails Alliance for the Connector Trail Project between the Kaw River State Park and the Kansas Museum of History.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jonathan Berzon, County Counselor's Office. As stated in the memo, this item would start the process of allowing the Top City Trails Alliance to create, improve, and maintain a biking and hiking connector trail between the Kaw River State Park and the Kansas Museum of History. It's shown on the map here, but also, whoops, can we get the other slide? This kind of gives you a bigger view of what we're talking about with the Kansas History Museum and Wanamaker Road there. So this is the area we're talking about. Some of the highlights of the agreement, each party would be responsible for their own acts or omissions and would have to indemnify and defend the other. All costs of the trail would be borne by the Top City Trail Alliance. And if the right-of-way is needed in the future for road use, the trail would be removed and the county would not be required to provide a replacement. And we have representatives of the Top City Trail Alliance here, and we've also notified all the adjoining landowners of this meeting. Be happy to answer any questions.
So, again, walk me through, this is not connecting the trail to any existing trail, this is creating new trail.
I'm gonna let Rick with the.
Yeah. And when you come up, if you state your name, just.
Good morning. Thank you. Rick Bean with, I'm the president of the Top City Trails Alliance. So I don't know, we've been around since 2021. We're a local volunteer group. We comprised of all volunteers from the community to promote, educate people, enhance our trail system in Shawnee County. That's our goal. This particular project has been identified for years as a possibility. And what it does is it connects, using existing right-of-ways, it connects our only urban park in the state of Kansas, which is the Kaw River State Park, to the Kansas Museum. Right along, there's Kansas River Bluffs. There's a nice forested area if you haven't been up there. Our organization has existing MOUs with Shawnee County Parks and Rec. We take care of Skyline and Dornwood. We also have an existing MOU with Kansas Wildlife and Parks to help them take care of the Kaw River State Park as well. So we had met with a consultant in the summertime, and obviously in order to get something like this done by a volunteer group, you need money. Money comes from grants, and the consultant basically said, hey, one of the first steps is to coordinate with Shawnee County, since they have the right-of-way up there to the north, and get an MOU with them. Without the MOU, we can't even apply for a grant. So that's why this MOU is so important. We're in the preliminary stages. We have talked to some of the landowners. Others we have not been able to talk to directly. I'm not saying we have approval by any of them at this point, but it's too early in the game. I think once we get that grant, then we're ready to do a lot more of the legwork, talk to landowners, do our survey work for certain areas and things like that. So again, this is an incredible, I think it's an incredible opportunity. Our local community has also recognized that in the sense of we have local support from Jim Klossman, and I have those letters as well. Mammoth Corporation out of Meriden. There's one of our local representatives. He is supporting us, as well as a letter from Lemon Cattle Company, which is one of the smaller owners. And I know there's another Lemon family that's involved, and we don't have their approval. But I think it's growing support, and we certainly would appreciate your support. And I do want to thank Jonathan for working very diligently with us.
So your request is to use the right-of-way easements that the county has to create a trail?
Yes, it'd be a natural surface trail using the existing right-of-ways, which at this point in time are, they're very heavily forested. And if you all would like an actual, a little bit better map than this one, I can provide that to you, which also shows some pictures of what that trail right-of-way currently looks like.
And then you're coming from a state park to a state museum?
Yeah, the two state properties would be what we would hope to connect.
And have you had conversations with the state about the creation of this trail?
Yes. In fact, we applied for a grant several years ago, the Sprint grant. Unfortunately, we did not get that grant, but we have talked to the Kansas Museum folks. They're pretty excited about it. We've talked to Wildlife and Parks a little bit. They're here, and I'm sure they're, I think, down to provide some comment. They haven't approved it. We're just preliminarily in discussions at this point, and that's where we are.
I think I would like to hear from the Department of the State and Wildlife, just because this is kind of going to connect two of their properties, and I want to make sure that they're familiar with this plan and how it impacts them.
Sure, absolutely. And if you don't mind, I'd
Yeah.
like to provide you with.
If you provide anything to the clerk, and then she can distribute it to us.
All right, Conroe Flanagan, Wildlife and Parks, I'm the State Park Regional Supervisor. Dustin Mangarelli, he's a Public Lands Regional Supervisor as well. So the statement from us is, Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks has not approved the proposed trail from the Kansas Museum of History to Kaw River State Park. We do not support a public use trail that is located on private land without agreements in place by those property owners. Until all landowners have been contacted and agreements are in place for the proposed trail, this trail will not be approved on our end. Those landowners should include all that would be affected by construction of a trail, including both Public Lands Division and the Parks Division. Additionally, we do express some concern of constructing a public use trail on a plotted roadway going directly through a private landowner's property. Those concerns also would be with the board who reviews all recreation trail grant programs, applications through the department.
Okay. Mr. Flanagan, in Shawnee County, and I can't speak for other counties, but in Shawnee County, trails have proved to be very, very popular, very highly used. Everywhere I go, people talk about the trails and how we can create more trails and expand recreational opportunities for trails. And so it would seem that this would be potentially a great addition, connecting the park to the museum. So is your concern from the state that we shouldn't enter into this memorandum until we've maybe vetted this a little bit more thoroughly with the landowners and how this would affect them?
So I think when we look about trails, and especially on the state park side, rail trails that we have across the state, having those landowners that your trail goes through, having them buy into what you're doing is vital for the success of the trail. We're not saying we wouldn't approve it. We just want those landowners that have had this right of way for X amount of years and not be developed, to be aware of what could transpire with the trail and make sure they're aware and they accept that kind of stuff going on their property.
So I guess,
But I do agree with you that trails across the state, across the nation, are highly sought after these days.
so it's not that the department is against trails.
Absolutely not. Our
Okay.
department is not against trails. State parks, public lands does have some concern because some of this would go through some hunting areas. So,
Okay.
so
What are the concerns with that?
So Dustin Mingarelli, Public Lands Regional Supervisor here in Topeka for Kansas Wildlife and Parks. Though this trail does not traverse our public land property, it is adjacent to it. So, I think it's the middle button, right? No. Top button, okay. If I can do this right. So, the Urish tract, if I can do this right. This is the Urish tract of the Kansas River Wildlife Area. This is open to the general public for hunting purposes mainly. It is a very popular dove field on one of our 3 Kansas River properties. It does not allow firearms deer hunting, and we do not have trails on public lands properties in our agency. That is more of a state park type initiative, because they're state parks are about camping, some fishing access, hiking. Our public lands properties are for hunting and fishing access only. That's what we use our properties for. So again, so this does not traverse our property, it does run along it, so there are potential for some conflicts between hunters and bikers or hikers. Just potential, not necessarily there will be. There are, the Landon Trail crosses through the Clinton Wildlife Area down southeast of town here. There are some conflicts. They're typically pretty manageable, but we just want to make sure that there will be potential issues or conflicts with this trail.
Okay. So from the department's perspective, would it be best to have these meetings with the landowners and the public and the state before we would enter into this memorandum, or do you have a position?
I think this is gonna probably land on your guys' shoulders just because we don't own this land or property. It's your right of way. I would just say it's gonna be best to have that buy-in from the individual landowners that have this right of way go on their property.
I mean, I guess from my position as a commissioner, my concern is by entering into this memorandum, we've kind of bound the county in our right-of-ways to something that may not be fully developed or fully vetted out yet. Because I'm hearing that, we're in a very heavily wooded area, that we're going to be looking at a lot of clearing. We're going to be having to work with the parks. We're going to have to work with landowners. And I would assume that they would be seeking grants, as they talked about, for this, having previously applied for grants. I just don't want to get out of order and sequence of what would need to happen.
I understand that concern. I think what Rick was intention with this MOU was to get that ball rolling and then have those conversations with those landowners. From our point of view, we just want to make sure everybody that this trail could affect is involved and aware of what it would happen.
Commissioners, any questions for Rick or for the department?
I just want to say that, we've been looking at this, well, not maybe the county, but when I was with the city almost 25 years ago, we put together a trail and greenway plan, and it was considered the 2025 plan, and we had this segment in there. And so it's been on the books for quite a while. Now, it's not exactly the way it is now, the way you guys have proposed this, but it's very close. And when we did this, Call River State Park didn't even exist. So that's really changed the scope of things. But I just want to say there's a lot of history that goes with this project, and we've been looking at it for years, and we think it's a good connection, not only to Call River State Park, but you are also hooked up to McClellan Park, which was adjacent to the governor's mansion. It also gets you down by the Kansas River, where you get to the dike system, which is also part of this trail plan. That it could link you up to who knows where. It could bring you right down to downtown Topeka. So-
Absolutely. Yeah, the connectivity in trail systems across the nation, like I said, is really vital right now and really a trend. So I see the potential in it. We just, like I said, want to make sure everyone knows what's going on.
And I think this MOU is a good first step to get the discussions going and see where we can go from there.
Commissioner Mays?
Well, I mean, the MOU doesn't necessarily authorize construction of the trail. It just gives them the authorization that if they're able to obtain funding, that we've said that they could use our land, right? I mean, our right-of-way.
I guess.
I mean, that's basically.
Looking at our counselor, our Assistant County Counselor, Jonathan.
So I mean, this doesn't guarantee that anything's ever going to be built.
They're still going to have to get the grant funding, and the grant funding, from what I'm hearing, would need the cooperation of the landowners. So this would just say you've got the cooperation of Shawnee County, now get the cooperation of the landowners, then get the grant, then build the trail.
So this is not necessarily, and I'm not a lawyer, so I, reading through this stuff, don't catch the details sometimes, but let's just say that next week they are approved the funding, they get a big grant. I mean, they still have to come back to us and ask permission to start construction on any of this, right? So, okay.
Mr. Bazan, does this obligate the county in the future in any way where we would be taking over the trail or maintaining the trail? I mean, I know that there's been discussions about trails and trail maintenance and maybe even looking down the road about how the county might be responsible for the maintenance of other trails.
Right, no, there's nothing in this agreement, though, to require the county to spend anything or do anything on this trail.
A couple of people signed it up.
Just as before we let the department go, these other trails that are in place or connector trails, are these maintained by the state as around the History Museum or Caw Valley Park?
I can't speak for the History Museum. For Caw River State Park, we have an MOU with Top City Trails Alliance, and they've helped maintain and construct some newer trails that this would tie into.
Okay. And is this a project where in the future the state would look at maybe making grant applications through other entities to expand their trail system?
So our grant application process is open up to public agencies and private organizations similar to Top City Trails. And so they can apply for those, but they just need to have agreements in place similar, like to use your guys' right away to expand on that. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Rick? I know that there's individuals in the public that also want to speak on this, so rather than having you wait till public comment, if you are wanting to speak on this item, Mr. Lemon, I know you're up front, and do you want to speak now, or?
My son, David, is representing me, and he will make some statements. Thank you. Dave Lemon, representing LBB LLC. We own the bulk of this property where this alleged easement is. And I say alleged easement because there's not been a road there in well over 100 years. Okay? We're not even sure who even built a road or if a road existed. This terrain, and I know it very well because I've been transversing it since I was 3 years old, some on horseback with Alf Landon and my grandfather. We built trails up there, and they were used for years. And then we allowed people, and I'm not opposed to trails. We're not opposed to trails. But it took us the better part of 20 years to get people to stop trespassing because they abused it. We picked up trash. The erosion issue became a major problem. So where the trail that we created 40 years ago, or over 40 years ago, it's actually to the south of that alleged easement. Okay? This is the trail they trespassed on in order to get the pictures. And I know that because he came to my office back in March and talked to me about it. So our position on this is that this easement should have been abandoned and has been abandoned on that road. We are prepared to file for that abandonment process. We are opposed to a trail across the middle of our property for various reasons. One, for our liability issues. It's going to actually connect an entrance to a mining operation that is in current operation. It will also, the erosion capability there is massive. This is a 60 to 70% grade where that easement runs. And once again, I should say alleged easement. It's going to put us right back into the same issues that we've been fighting for the last 20 to 30 years on people getting onto our property and creating issues on our property. And if you approve a trail through our private property, we're right back in the middle of it. People do not stay on trails. They get off of them. There's a creek there. There's railroad tracks there. There's plenty of opportunity for them to get off that trail. And I know that from experience because they've done it for the last 25 years. So our official position is we will not approve. We will not be a part of this. And whatever we have to do to stop the process, we will do. If that entails moving it to the district court, we were already prepared to do that through the abandonment process of this alleged easement.
So it's safe to say at this point, you're not in favor of the trail expansion?
I am not in favor of the trail of this magnitude. Now, you know, one of the other things, Mr. Tom Lemon owns some adjacent property of ours. Obviously, they've got a letter from him. They've got existing hiking and biking trails here on Washburn's property. If they want to come off of here and come across his property, and he chooses that, his property runs in this green area right down through here. If he's got an approval for them, more power to them, if that's what they want to do. But we will not allow it to go through our property. So whether it's approved or not on this MOU, we will fight this.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Razan, I'm going to have to admit I'm not very familiar with our county easement process or abandonment of easements. I don't know that it comes up very often before the county, but what is the position of the county, or what do we do with easements, or how do we regulate them?
We'd have to vacate the easement. That we've done that in the past when there's been no use of the road for a long time. And I know we looked at some of these easements and they are from 1902, 1896. They're pretty old. And they say things like for the use of the traveling public, for the use of the public, so. But they, at this time, they haven't been vacated.
Okay. So, just, again, I know I will get asked, but if somebody wanted to vacate it, what's that process look like?
There's a petition process to vacate an easement to the county commissioners, and then the county commissioners appoint viewers to go out and look at it and decide whether or not it's needed for public use, and if not, it can be vacated and turned back over to the landowners,
So, just in all actuality, we would go out and physically look at the properties?
We've done that for open roads, but for unopened roads, you can just vacate them.
All right.
Yeah.
I think the last time we vacated a roadway was out at Lake Javaro, where we went out and physically viewed it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if you want to do this after January 13th, that'd be fine with me.
I don't know why that date. I don't know why that date's
I'm not against
important.
you, but I would. My office is involved, so we would be fine. Rich wants to do it.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Always here to help. Questions for Jonathan? Are there other individuals wanting to speak on this item? Mr. Fry, I know that you signed up for public comment.
My name is Andy Fry. I'm on the board of the Top City Trail Alliance. I don't have a lot more to add than what Rick added. I think, and I haven't been as involved with the specific location of where we propose the trail. I think we're generally open to being flexible to finding other routes if this particular routing. I also would suggest that the county could enter into an MOU about this area without committing, like we're not necessarily committing to a specific route, we're just talking about the right-of-ways affected. So I don't think that today has to be off the table in terms of moving this grant application forward. But obviously that's up to you all to decide, that's just my perspective. And so, yeah, we're just looking to enhance the community in terms of, the KDWP brought up the idea that there is other existing trail right-of-ways in Shawnee County that have public hunting next to them, so that's not a new thing. And just hope that we can come to, I think we can come to a amicable outcome and allow private property owners to be happy with what comes of it, and also keep enhancing the community with trails.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Fry?
No.
No, I'm just, I question, I mean, does the MOU have to specify the route?
That might be a question for Mr. Brazon. We have attached as Exhibit A the specific.
Because I'm looking at the map, and it seems like it might be actually pretty easy to change the design of the trail. I mean, I'm sure Washburn would be cooperative to some degree. And then, the Potawatomi owns a good chunk of land over there also. So, I mean, I don't know how difficult it would be to negotiate with them, but it seems like might be something to look at.
Right. I think the only concern with that is they're up against a deadline to get this grant application in. So if we were to amend this agreement, we probably need to do it now to remove the reference to Exhibit A. Maybe would be a way to do it, and just change it to say that, use of county right-of-ways.
What is the deadline?
Yeah, so again, being a volunteer group, I mean, all we're looking out for is the community and trying to get something done, because I think it's a great idea. In order to do that, you got to have funding. So grant funding is the only way to go. We're not asking you guys for funding. We're not asking anybody else for funding. We're asking for grant funding. The deadline is basically this week. We have turned the package in, the MOU that you have in front of you. We told them it would be unsigned, but we had this commission meeting today to discuss it. So that's what they know at this point. So the amount of the grant is a little over $80,000. Over $30,000 is in-kind services. We also received $10,000 from the Topeka Community Foundation to help with all of this. And that's just a start. If you look at other communities across our state who have been very active in building trails, this type of grant is a start to more grants and more money, because it's going to take more money than $87,000 to build this entire trail. There's a lot of upfront stuff, talking to landowners, getting approvals, doing some surveying. There's a lot of upfront stuff that has to be done before we even get to building anything.
Questions?
Jonathan, that Exhibit A, that, we're not obligated to that, are we? I mean, if we would sign this MOU today, or is that?
I think we would need to remove the references to it in the agreement before we sign it, and maybe just say county right-of-way, but I don't.
Yeah.
We're basically just saying we're in support of using county right-of-way for a connector trail between these locations.
I mean, as it stands now, I can tell you that I'm not in favor of the memorandum as it's presented. I think it's gotten a little bit ahead of itself. Again, I'm not that I'm anti-trails. I'm very much for trails. They're very popular. It's something that it benefits the entire community, adds quality of life value to the community. But as it is written today, I'm not in favor of it. I also have concerns if we're looking at using easements that maybe existed from the 1880s and were never developed into roadways, but now we want to use them for a trail. A bit of skepticism on what we're doing.
I don't think it said railways, though. It said.
I said trails or roadways.
Yeah.
So I think that's the words that Mr. Brazon used, was that if they were used for travel.
Public use.
One says traveling public, one says public ways dedicated to the public, another one says for the benefit of the public, so.
Again, I would want to look at how those easements were actually prepared in 1880 or 1900, 1902. 1883.
Well, we still have a lot of right-of-ways that date back to those times, and we're still using them. Would you be all right with it if we just eliminated?
If we were to move the Exhibit A, and we're talking about a development, again, it's going to have to come back before the county commission for its development, but this would allow them to apply for the grant, but not have it tied to any specific route, then I would be okay with that.
Okay.
Because again, I think that it needs to be further developed. We're not there yet, but if you're wanting to apply to get things started. Commissioner Mays?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the whole thing is, I don't think I would approve a trail going through their property right now. But at the same time, I understand there's a need for speed, and then this, we wouldn't actually be approving any construction until funding is available. So, I mean, if we were to remove Exhibit A from the language, I probably could vote to approve the MOU just so they could make their application, but I wouldn't approve this trail to be built right now, at least not with the current setup.
So, this time, it sounds like we're in a position to, I'll make a motion then, we approve the memorandum of understanding, but we remove all references to Exhibit A. So is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? That passes 3-0. So that way, again, for the public, you would be able to apply for your grants, but I would strongly encourage you to work with all the landowners as to how we are going to develop that, and the state, to make sure that we're following these things in the right path.
Including the other landowners to try and work out an alternative route. So,
I agree with that. All right.
now, was that motion just to amend, or was that to amend and approve?
I amended and approved.
He approved.
Okay.
All right. Our next item.
Item 5, public comment.
We have Mr. McClure, you're signed up.
Congratulations on the election. I want to shed some light on a problem. And the topic of today is Jetto, because you're Jetto. And you're very much involved with all the citizens within the county. And we're having a problem with the city of Topeka on a project where we entered into a TIF agreement and a CID agreement on the Topeka Boulevard, where Chick-fil-A is open, Whataburger's under construction, and there's another pad, another piece of land that's available. And what has happened is Cook, Flatt, and Strobel, who's a very qualified company, submits plans to the city. The city has engaged a California company, an engineering company, to review them. And by the way, they've charged $1 million to the city of Topeka over the last year. And so what happens between the California company and the local homeboys are the out-of-town boys redesign the whole thing, and it turns into a ping pong ball. And it's raised, they're adding another $1.5 million to the project of unnecessary changes. go out to the boulevard today and look at what they're tearing up. And if you have a long memory, that was a highway. And if you even have a longer memory, White Lakes at one time was Northeast Kansas's #1 shopping center. It was a Going Jesse. And you can break down sales volumes to trip generation. But the California boys, they won't let us use historical information. We have, I just happen to be affiliated with all the real estate in question over my lifetime. I worked for the guys that got the traffic light back in the 60s from the highway, from KDOT. But this is a travesty. And Jetto can help this situation. You've got economic development money to help developers. Okay, but let's go backwards for a minute, because what's really unjust and unfair in this whole situation is when the developer was making the deal, he gave away some of his incentives out of TIF and CID just to land the guys to get Chick-fil-A and Whataburger to do the deal. It's a blighted area. It's terrible. And there's some Bring Back the Boulevard committee that I don't know who they are or where they exist. They got a sign from Molly. They gave them a sign. They put up a sign on our property that said, "These improvements are brought to you by Bring Back the Boulevard." No way. So, you've got buckets of money. You got buckets of money for TIF. You got buckets of money of CID. And we gave away part of our bucket. So we're in a world of hurt out there. And then what's really even adds insult to injury, the car dealer out there, John Hoffer, he goes, "What are you doing this for?" He goes, "That's a perfectly good road. What are you doing this for? And who's paying for it?" Well, the Benish is extorting that money out of the developer. It's extortion. That's all it is. But the system's broken, and that's why Jetto needs to step in. You know, you've got a qualified guy here that could look at those plans, and he could prove them lickety split. If you go back to Wheatfield, 29th and Fairlawn, you might have heard of that project. Well, Wheatfield actually got 3 buckets of money. They got TIF, they got CID, and then they got to use the sales tax dollars to fund Wheatfield. Now, we all know that the difference between White Lakes and the Boulevard and Wheatfield, there's a huge difference between the two. And I think over time, you know, 29th and Fairlawn might have kind of developed on its own without, and it's a beautiful investment. I'm not going to take that away from Jimbo, not one bit. It's a beautiful property. But they've got 3 buckets of money. They've got TIF, they got CID, and they got sales tax money. So when we look back at what's happened on the boulevard to the developer, and to add all of a sudden after the 16 months later, 17 months later, oh, hey, by the way, this is what it's going to take now to make the project happen, and you got to pay for it all. So basically, the developer himself is bringing back the boulevard because they're extorting the funds out of him. It's not fair. And so now let's play, well, if I do that for you, Henry, I got to do it for everybody. So now let's just take that conversation to 29th and Fairlawn. You did it. we should make the wheat field development agreement just the standard agreement. Because if it's good enough for 29th and Fairlawn, it could work on White Lakes, or it could work on somewhere in Oakland, or it could work in parts of North Topeka. Because you've done it for one. That horse is out of the barn. And in a Schadenfreude fashion, I understand about your pain about the Expo Center, Stormont Vale. You know, you spearheaded this project. You got millions of dollars of taxpayer money, and you're not getting a return on it. And I feel exactly the same way about the sales tax money, because I went out and solicited, and so I feel bad that the sales tax money is being spent the way it is. Much like Benish, they're making us design the project to 2050 standards. What do they know? They won't even let us use the historic. If we could just get it back to what it was like in the 60s, it would be fine. The roads would be fine. We've got to quit thinking that we need outsiders to do what's right. You've got 3.5 million, I'm sorry, 3.5 million in going to overhead to go to Topeka, where we need to be spending that money on projects. Yeah, it's there. It's in the annual report. You can shake your head all you want, Kevin. It's in their annual reports. And you know something? It's just going to take a lot of. Today, I'm not one man standing here. There were a few other people that liked me in this community. It was close. Hey, but we're not done yet. Now you get to govern. You guys get to govern. And hopefully, you know, if I could get two of you to do the right thing, maybe I could get two on the other side at Jetto. But what's going on here is wrong. And why would you want to come to Topeka to develop? Why would you? Open up a bank account at Heritage Bank, join the chamber, invest with the Greater Topeka Partnership, don't forget your Topeka Country Club membership, and then you're in. But there's a huge disconnect between the voters and this body, and there's a huge, even a larger disconnect between me and this body because of who you represent. So, Jetto, put your Jetto hat on and do what's fair. Use economic development money for economic development. Because you've done it for one. That's a good enough reason. And it's a good enough project. But it's also where leveler heads need to engage. When a city within your county is not behaving appropriately, and we have a government entity to have oversight that with Jetto, it's your duty to the taxpayers. And not just because I said, because the message will get out eventually. It will take time. It will take time. The calmer I get and the better I get at making the message, it's catching on. So, need your help? Please. Because we can do more developments. There just can't be two developers in town. We can do more and better things if you treat everybody fairly and the same. Thank you for your time.
Any other public comment? You don't want to stick around, Mr. McClure? See ya. Any other public comment? All right, our next item.
Item 6, Administrative Communications.
This is an opportunity for any department head to address the commission. Jumping right up.
Larry Mall, Shawnee County Treasurer. I was hoping to be here this morning to announce that our tax statements had been mailed. Unfortunately, we have a software problem and we cannot print or produce the file to print the statements. We are working with the vendor to get that corrected, and I hope by this time next week, those statements will have been printed and mailed. The good news is you can still go out online today and pay your taxes. We already have people who have done that. So that information is available online through Pay It. You can do that and pay the taxes. You can also walk into our office today and pay the taxes. We've already had people do that. You can go out to the appraiser site and view what your taxes are for 2024. Unfortunately, I just do not have a piece of paper to send to you at this point. We're working with the vendor to get that taken care of.
When are the first half property taxes due?
December the 20th. By statute, the statements are not required until December the 10th. Now, personally, I think that's ridiculous, and we've always strived to get them out the first half of November and never later than Thanksgiving. And after 12 years, I don't intend to break that habit.
Okay. But if people do want to view their property tax statements, they can go online to do that.
They can. It's pretty easy. Go to Shawnee County, to the appraisers, and do a property lookup. You can see what the taxes are for not only 2024, but also all the history. Or you can go to Pay It, which is the same vendor that you use if you're doing your motor vehicle renewals online. Same account, and you'll be able to see what you owe and make a payment. Sorry for the inconvenience, and I'm a little upset about it, and we'll get this taken care of.
Well, I'm sure that Mark Price and Steve Bauman and everybody else will get working on that.
Yeah, Mark's is tired of listening to me complain about it, but we'll get some more sleep when we get it fixed.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew Howell, Shawnee County Election Commissioner. Just a quick reminder for the Commission and the public as well. Our canvass event is next Monday, the 18th at 9 a.m. This is an opportunity for the public. If you had an ID and had a provisional ballot, this is an opportunity to get that ID or a copy of it to the office so we can make sure your provisional counts. So I just want to remind the public about that. And it is a public meeting. The public can attend. I do want to make a couple of comments. I've heard some conversation in the community about wondering why some voters' voter history is not updated, so I'll talk about that for just a moment, because I think it's important for people to understand the process. When voters vote by mail or they vote early at the office, those records are actually updated fairly quickly as part of the process, and the way the Elvis or election voter system in Kansas works. Those particular records are updated fairly quickly, and you can find those online and track that part of the process. So early and mail are fairly easily and fairly quickly updated records. However, if you voted on election day, there's about 600 statutes, and provisionals themselves are also a part of the process that we have to rectify and verify a number of those records as part, as you know, as part of the final canvass event. So those records are not able to be updated until after the canvass. So I would encourage the public to wait until after the final certification of the entire election before you look online to figure out if your voter history has been updated. I also think there's some confusion among the public about the difference between election results and the actual voter history or the poll book records. So we always have a copy of poll book records. I like the way our system works in Shawnee County because there is a ticket that is printed out for every voter if you vote election day. We always maintain those records. I think that's an important thing to keep those records separate. So I never know, just as a matter of public record, how any person ever votes, because as those ballots are inserted into the tabulation machines on election day, that's where the actual counting occurs. So that the counting has occurred and is complete. But it's important, I think, for the public probably to understand that voter history is a function of the poll book and of the voter registration system. So it's more of a list of voters throughout the county and then the associated history. Whereas how a ballot is counted and how it is reported election night is an entirely different system. And it's separated partly to make sure that people's privacy and secrecy of their ballot is preserved. So there's some fine details that I think it's important for the public to understand, and I wanted to make a couple comments about that. So happy to talk additionally to anyone that has specific questions. Feel free to call the office. We're happy to talk about that. But I think the Secretary of State's office has done a good job trying to make sure people understand that that election day data will not be updated until later in the month, because all of the counties have to complete their canvass, and then the counties even have to compare notes among themselves to make sure that somebody didn't vote provisionally in a different county. So there's a number of things related to those 600 statutes around elections that have to be accomplished before you can really complete all of that voter history. So I hope that's helpful. Happy to answer any questions, but look forward to wrapping up the Shawnee County portion of the election on the 18th at 9 a.m.
Questions? We'll see you on Monday.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Ms. Deck lost some donuts.
He said he will. He wouldn't dare not.
John Landon, Director of the Weed Department. Just to let the public know, we still have 3 sprayers that hadn't been winterized yet. We're keeping a close eye on the weather. It's actually supposed to start turning, so we'll probably winterize a couple of them, pull one in and out for the next couple of weeks to give you the opportunity to get your last minute spraying done, and then that one will be winterized for the winter. So we'll keep you posted, but currently we still have a couple available.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other administrative communications this morning? Commissioner Rippon?
I really don't have anything to add.
Mr. Mays?
Nothing for me.
Might just add, we, for the record, JDOE has not funded wheat field parking or traffic. It may have been included as part of a sales tax for a city project, but that is not JDOE. So, for the record and clarification, our next item.
Item 7, executive session.
There is not a need today, so we are adjourned.